Hi friends, happy July. I'm so excited for this month's course. First, I just hope you all are doing well and staying safe and healthy. It was a little quiet last month in our Facebook group, and so I hope you're just spending really good time with your family and friends and staying safe. So this month is all about patriotic things for all the holiday celebrations. We're going to be doing this really cute design, bold stripes, bright stars, brave hearts. I'm going to show you how to draw different styles of stars, and we're also going to talk about how to draw a flag, and then also like a sparkler or a firework. And then this cute design, we've got different fonts that we're going to be using, plus the script font that we'll practice as well. Okay, so I'm going to start with a kind of like when we do our ribbons. It's going to be like the top line is going to be our guide. So this one, we're going to have our flag go forward, fold forward, and then fold back this way, just like when we do our ribbons. Then you're going to come down, use your ruler if you'd like, or freehand. You're going to come down from where the points of your line are, like this. Just want to make sure they're about the same length. And then this one will just fold behind here, so it gives that illusion of the fold. And then we're going to finish the bottom by having a parallel line that matches the top line. So you can see it goes up and curved a little bit. This one's going to come down and up, just like that. Then we're going to add our details to our flag. So if you are drawing the American flag, then this is what it would look like. I don't worry about so much it being perfect. If you want to count every little star and stripe, definitely go for it. I'm just going to kind of put what fits there. I'll have a little square for my stars, and then I'll start at this bottom part. You want your stripes to follow the same movement as these top lines and bottom lines, just so you can see the flow of things. So you're going to want that line to kind of have that same curve as we go along, just like that. And then this one's going to be the same. This one's a little bit trickier. You can measure this out if you want it to be perfect. I just like to freehand it and give it to the look of the American flag, but it's not going to be perfect, okay? Okay, so lastly, if you are going to use your chalk markers, then you would fill this in. If you wanted it to stay black and white, then you could fill it in with chalk. So what I'm going to do is going to come over here with my marker, and I'm going to fill in the spot for the stars, and then once it's dry, I'll come back with my eraser or my pencil, and we will add all of our stars. And sometimes the stars will just be dots. They might not have the exact shape when you're doing this, depending on how big your flag is and how much detail you're adding. If it's just quick, you can have it be kind of like a rougher flag where you show the chalk marker lines. All right, and then you just start at the top here and just kind of fill it in. So just have that same pattern, you know, so red, and we can add white here in a minute. So red, white, red and white, all the way across. This is kind of like a maroon classic color. I actually don't have any of the neon colors of the VersaChalk. That's where you'll find like the bright red. But I prefer like that Americana colors, the blue and kind of the darker maroon color. Oh, it's just so classic. All right, so once you get all your red stripes, then we'll come back and do our white. All right, so now I'm just coming back through and adding the white chalk marker and in for my white stripes, and I just love the contrast between these colors. It's just so beautiful on that black chalkboard background. All right, so once you get all of your stripes and everything dries, we're going to come back and I'm going to outline the entire flag with white, just to make it kind of pop. So I'll outline with the white and then we will do our stars. Okay, so now that I've have added my my outline and all my stripes are dry and my blue is dry, I can come back here and if you're new to the courses, one of the things I always tell everyone is you want to work with the markers when they're wet and not dry, because once they're dry they actually might scratch off when you try to write on top of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to write on top of them, but I'm going to add just some dots. Like I said, if you want to be like completely correct and do all of the stars that you're supposed to, that's totally up to you. But once you get all of your dots, you can leave it as dots, or you can come back with your pencil and just lightly move the ink around so that it has points, and it will kind of give it the illusion of stars. I'm just kind of making X's in the dot, but I'm not pushing hard, because if I push hard it's going to scratch off my blue. I'm just kind of doing X's here. Alright, so this is how you draw a flag. There you go. Alright friends, next I'm going to show you how to draw a couple different styles of stars. When you have a design that has stars, it's always nice to kind of have a variety of styles and different sizes to kind of just add that variety. So the first one is probably one that you probably already know already, but it's pretty basic. You can use a ruler if you want. I'm just going to freehand, but you start with a triangle, and this is going to be like the main part of your star. Once you have your triangle, you're going to come to this corner, and you want it to kind of be in between this space. If you were to cut this in half, you want this line to kind of come there. So you're going to bring another line up, and then this one is going to come across, and it's going to cut that off. And you want them to try to be somewhat even, but it's not a huge deal. And then you're just going to cap it off doing that. So sometimes I'll leave this open and have it have that line look, or you can come in and you can shade it, and you can, you know, get rid of those lines. You can erase the lines if this is an easier way for you to draw the star versus freehand. You can kind of fill it in. Okay, so the next style is more of a freehand style that's a little bit same. It looks similar, but you're going to start with a smaller, fatter triangle like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just rotate your chalkboard, and you're going to continue to do a triangle. But what you want is you want these lines to match and be at the same slant. So here comes the line here. Here comes the line here. All right, so you can see that that is the top of our star. Then this line's going to come down, and we're going to stop it once it looks like it's about at the same spot as this line here. Just like that. And then you're going to do another one, just like that. Another one just like that. These ones end up having a little more character. They're a little bit like shorter and fatter, versus these ones are a little bit sharper. But this will just give you that variety of different sizes and different looks. You can leave it open, you can color it in, either way. And the last one I like to do is just a simple line one. You start with an X, and then you're going to come back with a little bit smaller, shorter lines to cross, and then another short line, even shorter. And you're just going to keep doing that. And you can do those all the way around and kind of fill in. And then I'll even, inside the design, I'll even just do some dots to kind of fill in all of those different shapes or different empty areas. So that's how you draw stars. Now I'm going to show you how to draw like fireworks, and you can turn it into a sparkler pretty easy. So I always start with a ruler to get my like the foundation of the space figured out. And so what you'll do is you'll just start with an X. And so decide how big you want that base to be. So I'm going to do 3 inches, marked 1.5 inches there so that they are even. So you're going to do, there's going to be one firework there, and then we're going to have a smaller one here. So you always kind of start with different varieties of sizes. Remember, groups of 3 is kind of my rule. Try to always do them a little bit different sizes just so you get that variety and it stands out a little bit. Okay, so once you have your main X figured out, if you're doing it just with chalk, then you can just start going and you start just adding more X's and lines, add, you know, different sizes of them and everything like that. If you're gonna add different colors of chalk in there, you can totally do that. So I'm just gonna show you what it would look like. All right, so let's start by just kind of adding more. And then once you get, it gets kind of congested in here, then I start kind of adding lines throughout around it. Okay, and it looks kind of like it's exploding. And you can add a little bit of like a circle in the middle if you need to, so it looks a little bit more fluid. If you're gonna add color, then same thing, you're just gonna come in and you're just gonna add these fun lines. They don't have to be perfectly straight, but you want that variety and different sizes and different directions. Not like one turning to the right or left, but you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So now that we've added a little color with that, we can come back and we can add some more color with maybe some reds. Just kind of try to fill in any empty space that you might see throughout. Okay. Oh, look how cute that's turning out. All right, now I'm going to come back with my marker and I'm just going to do that same thing where I'm just going to start filling in any empty space and pulling the sparks out from the middle. You can do some dots around it to kind of also give it that explosion look. All right, and so you can do the same thing with your other spaces here. If you're doing all white, like I said, you can just use chalk. It turns out really cute, but the color definitely makes it look more like fireworks because we've got the red, white, and the blue. I'll just go ahead and finish this one too. All right, so if you want to make this into a sparkler, it's pretty easy. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this part and then I'll show you how to like make it into a sparkler. It's the exact same thing you're doing right now. Oh, look how cute. Oh, I love these colors together. So I'm using the metallic blue. I don't have the classic color. I've already said this in another video for this class, but the metallic looks really pretty with the fireworks. All right, so then we're gonna add our pops of white in here. You can see it doesn't have to be perfect. It just, you know, just a bunch of lines all coming out together. Add some dots here, there. All right, so to make this into a sparkler, it's fairly easy. So I'm just gonna make this end one into a sparkler instead of a firework. All you're gonna do is come in and add like the stem, like that. And what I like to do is kind of create like a halo look around the top of the stick, because then that's kind of where you know that like the sparks are coming from that. And so I'll just kind of do like a little halo on the top, and then I might erase. This is still wet, so I would normally wait till it's completely dry, but just kind of erase the lines around the stem so it looks like it's coming from the top of the stick, and just kind of add some more coming from there. So this is perfect for any type of patriotic chalkboard, for July festivities. I do the sparkler a lot for weddings. When people do like a sparkler send-off, I draw a lot of those sparklers on wedding chalkboards. So that's how you draw some fireworks. So I realized today, friends, that I haven't done a basic strokes breakdown. I just realized that that's spelled wrong. Basic strokes breakdown of the lettering. I haven't done that in the last few months. So I thought I would come back to some basics and kind of just review this. So this top part, I've broken all the strokes into separation, and then this is where it is connected. So I'm just going to show you the connected part. Okay, so we're going to have our first stroke that comes ascender and down to create the B. And then the next stroke is our oval shape. Oh, skipped it a little bit. Our oval shape, and then back up. And then sometimes the R, I break it up into 2 strokes. Sometimes it's like the loop, and then I stop, and then I come back down. Sometimes I do that continuously. And then we have an up, or a down up, and then an oval, and then down descender, up ascender, and then we have an up, down, up, and then a cross stroke, and then our dot there for bright. And then for stars, we have, if you do like a more complicated S, it looks a little different. This is kind of simple. Curve down and back up, and then we have a down, up, basic stroke, our oval, down, up, and then here's the continuous R. See how I didn't stop there? And then another S and another cross stroke to complete it. So you're basically just taking these basic strokes from above and connecting them and overlapping them to make it look like a continuous word. All right, friends, to create our patriotic design for this month, I'm going to be using my Versa chalk markers. So I've got the classic blue, like the red and the white. I've got a rustic Versa chalkboard with, this is porcelain steel. And then I've got a piece of chalk for sketching, and then also my general pastel chalk pencil for sketching. All right, so I've already broken my chalkboard into the spaces that I need to create this design. So I needed 3 spaces here, and the easiest way to do this is to measure your surface. So I measured 7.5 and I divided it by 3, and that gave me 2.5 inches for those 3 sections. And then I usually put a border on the sides so I don't get too close to the sides. And then I always usually find the middle just so I am aware it's a little bit off too. I think I measured it this way. So we'll do 3.25 right there. Okay, so there's our middle point, and that just kind of helps me gauge where I want the letters. So same thing with the letters. I'm going to kind of show you a trick of what I do to space things out as far as, you know, I have this word that needs to take up this space, and how do I know where the letters are going to fit? Because you don't want to start writing and then have your letters only come to here. You want it to fill the entire space, so I'm going to show you that trick. All right, friends, so when you're writing script lettering, it's a lot of times very easy to fill the space that you need and kind of make it center, because you can extend your exit and your entry strokes across the chalkboard. When you're doing these printed letters, it can be a little bit trickier to make sure that you are spreading them out the right way and that you don't run out of room. So what I like to do is I count how many letters are here. Okay, you can see my reflection. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I count the space, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 letters and a space that we need to fit in here. And so what I did is I measured this, and it's roughly 9 inches. So I took 9 divided by 12, and it gave me 0.75. Okay, so I did a little mark for 0.75, and now I can come back, and now that I know my mark, I'm gonna actually put that up there. Now that I know my mark, I can come in and I know exactly how much space I have to write all of my letters, and I know that I will fill that entire section, and I won't run out of space, and I won't be too short of space because I've already measured it out. So that kind of, it can be a little more tedious, but it also is a super helpful trick. If you are worried about filling a space or not having enough space, you're worried about things being centered, then that will kind of be your trick to help you keep things centered. All right, so I did the same thing down here. I have 12 letters and a space to put down this direction, but first we're gonna sketch the bright stars, just like we practiced. So here's our basic strokes. And don't worry too much about staying or not having it jump and do all those things, and then just use your cross strokes to kind of fill in those spaces. see I don't have as much space on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the S a little bit shorter, so that way I can come across that way, because that space was empty, but I didn't have enough space there. All right, so there's sketching that. The next we're going to sketch brave. I already have put my little sections here. And I'm just freehanding this, and then we're going to do a little heart for the V. Okay, I'm freehanding this because then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it a little bit more detailed, and I'm going to add more detail with my marker. So freehanding this part is totally fine, and it's not going to be exactly aligned and perfect because I'm going to come back and add more detail. But you can see that means that I have not run out of space because I gave myself that guideline. Now that I've sketched that, I can come back with my eraser and I can erase the guidelines. And now we'll get ready to add our detail and add our stars and our stripes with our markers. Before I can come in and add the stripes to the bold stripes section, I need to thicken up my downstrokes, and so I'm going to come back and I'm going to thicken these down, thicken these so I can see where I want my red stripes and my white stripes to go. When you're doing thick and thin strokes on these basic lettering, print lettering, just think about what space you have. So if I thicken it on this left side, then I have plenty of space to thicken more on this inside. But if I try to thicken here on the right and then also thicken here, it ends up running too close to these letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thicken that downstroke, and then I'm going to add a little bit of thickness to the curve that comes down, and same on that bottom one right there. Okay, and then here I'm going to thicken on the inside, maybe a little bit more on that side. So a kind of rule of thumb for me is if you've spaced out your letters the right, like measured it and done it right, you should be able to thicken all the downstrokes on the same side without any problems. But then you have like an L who has more space on the right and the left. Okay, so thicken these. Okay, all right, so now that those are thickened, I'm going to show you how we're going to do our stripes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to line up our chalk marker, or our ruler, and then we're going to take our chalk marker, and then just in that thick spot I'm going to add a line, and I'm going to skip wherever it's not thick. Okay, so see that? And then I'm going to come down, I'm going to leave a spot for the white, but then I'm going to thicken, or sorry, not thicken, I'm going to add a stripe to the downstroke again with my red, and I'm just going to continue that same pattern all the way down. And then we'll come back and we'll do the same pattern with the white. We'll add white in between the red, and then we're going to do the same thing to the word stripes. Oh, I'm kind of skipping these. Okay, a couple more down this direction. I'll probably end with one more red. All right. Okay, so now before I go further on the other side, I decided to come over here and thicken these downstrokes so I can add red to them as well. And I don't have a set of the fine size Versa chalk markers in the colors, but if you're working on a smaller chalkboard, it might be easier to use these for your stripes rather than using the bold ones. I just don't happen to have any on hand. Alright, so now you can see that I've thickened all the downstrokes, and so I'm going to come back and do the same thing that we did with the word bold. I'll kind of try to line them up so that they look more in sync, but we're going to do that same technique all the way across. Okay, so now that we've added our red stripes, we're going to come back and add our white. And I would recommend waiting till your other marker is dry, otherwise you'll have the white mixed with the red. And still be careful even if it's dry, sometimes that will happen. So I'm going to use my fine tip because I have really a small section. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and I'm going to add that stripe in between all the reds. And I'm not necessarily filling the whole space, I'm just adding the little detail, because then I'm going to come back and I'm going to trace this letter with the white to make it stand out more. So having a little bit of black shining through or showing through is not going to be a big deal. At the end of the day, it's all going to look really nice. So I'm going to go through and do this to every letter, and then I will show you how to trace them. Alright, so now I've got my stripes in. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to trace the letter. I'm going to add a little serif at the end of each letter to kind of cap it off. So that's that little end point. For anything that's like a flat or an end, I'm going to add a little serif is what it's called. Alright, so we're going to come here and we're going to trace our letter B, and just be careful, you might get a little bit of smearing red, but it's okay. Alright, and then I'm going to add that serif, and you can just leave it like a line like that, or you can add thickness to it, whatever you have room for. The size of my chalkboard is kind of limiting me on what I can do here, so I'll probably just add the line. The line detail will be good enough for me. Alright, so keep going through and tracing the letters to kind of finish them off and add that detail. The fun thing about this is adding these stripes to letters. If you do them on a diagonal instead of straight across, then you have like a candy cane style lettering, which would be so cute during Christmas time. But it just adds a little bit more character to your letters, and it fills in that thick downstroke space with a fun design versus just having it colored in or left blank. Okay, next we're gonna trace over bright stars, and I have done this technique with you guys in previous classes, but one of my favorite things that gives a really consistent thick and thin lines is using two different size markers when you're doing this. And so I'm going to be using my bold tip chiseled and then the fine tip. And what I'm going to do, and this could take some practice because you're not going to be writing the way that you normally would, but I'm going to use this thick tip to do all of my downstrokes, and then I'm going to come back with my thin tip to do all of my upstrokes, and that really gives you that contrast between the thick and the thin, and it looks really pretty. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come and I'm going to add thick, that's going to be thin, that's going to be thick, that might have a little bit of thickness. So this is going to be weird at first if you've never done it before, but I'm just going to go over all of the thick downstrokes first, and that's what it's going to look like. And then I'm going to come back before it dries and I will complete and then just kind of work on those transitions. The nice thing about the thin one is to kind of help with those transitions to thicker and thin. But this just gives you that really easy contrast between the thick and the thin strokes. So you can see here I'm going to have to fill that in just to make it look more smooth. You can completely do the normal faux calligraphy where you just come back and you add your own thickness. But the reason I like doing this, like I said before, is it's just more consistent with the size of my, or the thickness of my lines. I don't have to think about how thick or thin some of the lines are happening to turn out. Alright, so that's starting to get dry, so I'm gonna hurry up here. As soon as it starts to get dry, it starts to scratch off, and you might have to start over. All right, so now that we have those thick and thins, we'll do our cross stroke. All right, so look how nice that is. Oh my gosh, it looks clean. It's just really, really pretty. So we're gonna go ahead and do that for this next one as well. We've got thick, thick, down, 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 and down. And then we'll come back and we'll clean this up with our thin strokes. Alright, I had a lot of you guys mention that you like watching the entire process, and so I'm trying to show you the entire process instead of cutting it off and skipping parts. Sometimes I have to do that because it will take too long, and sometimes I don't have as much to say. Alright, so there is bright stars. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is come down here. And with these thick strokes, I'm going to leave them empty because I'm going to add some shading to them. So we're just going to go ahead and trace them with our marker. And then sometimes the easiest for shading is to add chalk in here, but you can totally do chalk marker and just smear it with your finger or with a Q-tip. Alright, and then this is going to be red, so I'm going to skip it. And even though the H has 2 downstrokes, I typically just do the first downstroke thick and then leave the next one thin, just for balance and variety. It looks visually to me better to have thick, thin, thick versus thick, thick, thick. So that's why I always leave that one. Alright, I think this quote is by probably one of my favorite quotes. It's just awesome. I think I say that a lot when we do these designs. Alright. Okay, so now that we've got these all thick and we've added our serifs, I'm going to come back and we will add shadow lines and add more detail, and we'll add the shading. Okay, so I looked and I had a metallic blue versus a chalk marker, so I really wanted to bring some blue into this design, so I'm going to use that, but if I had the choice I would definitely be using more of the classic blue, but I just wanted to add some pop of color, so I'm just using it to add the shadow line very thinly, and if you don't have space for it, like I've said before, don't try to force that shadow line in there. Just go ahead and let it sit without it, and then you can add a little bit of shadow line on the top if you want to on some of these. Okay, that looks good. Alright, so we're going to do it here. I'm going to probably use this blue. It is really a pretty blue. It looks brighter on the screen than it is. Like you're getting the shine. But the metallics are fun. So I'm glad I found that in my pile of markers. Alright, so keep doing that all the way across. I'm probably, in my sketch I did the blue all the way through. I'm probably going to do the stars in blue down here and then add some blue highlights down there, but you can kind of play around with it if you want less color or more color. But let's go ahead and sketch our stars in, and we'll fill in any of the dead space or the empty space that we have left. Okay, so using the style of stars that we practiced, I'm just going to kind of come in and add some different ones. And you can keep the stars with the bright stars wording, or you can kind of have them go all over your chalkboard. And maybe what we'll do is come in with blue and add like the dots. And then don't forget to do different sizes. Don't have them all the same size. That variety adds a lot to your design when you start adding in the different sizes. But that's already looking so cute. Look how, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, so keep doing that, and then you can come back with, you can leave it with the chalk pencil or the chalk or whatever you decided. But I'm probably going to come in and add a shadow line, but I think I'll add like some pops of blue dots around the wording to kind of fill in space. And then down here, I'm just going to use my chalk pencil. And what I'm doing is I'm adding kind of a shading effect where the top of the letter will have the highlight and then the bottom it fades. That's kind of hard for you guys to see on your screen, but I'll show you in a picture. So I'm just adding highlights to the top of all the thick strokes with my chalk pencil. And then I'll use my finger to kind of blend them down into the dark area. Alright, that is pretty much it. Such a fun, cute design. Fun lettering to practice. Adding the stripes to your lettering. So there you go. Happy July, and I can't wait to see you guys next month. Check out SheSheDesign.com for supplies, free downloads, and more resources for your chalk art and lettering. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like this video. Thanks, guys.